You're in the whole 6010. Focus. Fantasy Focus.
What's good, friends? Welcome into Fantasy Focus Football, presented by Little Caesars alongside Mike Clay and Fields Yates. My name is Daniel Dopp, here for a very fun Thursday show, previewing all the things that you need to know. Part 1 of our Week 5 preview. We're going to dive into a handful of topics we brought to the table, as well as the Shadow Report. Now that the playbook is out, go check that out right now on ESPN.com. It is an awesome article every single week. And we got a Thursday Night Football preview and a little bit of fun at the end of the show. So very fun show planned for today, but first and foremost,
fun.
Yeah, today it's going to be fun. No, you don't. Field and I plan the fun. You just sort of show up,
okay.
Mike. That's how that works.
Just sit there.
I don't see fun. I don't see fun on this note.
It's not there. It's not there. And I have breaking news. I'm either going to be the most tired I've ever been on a show in my entire life, or I am going to be so wired that my voice will never drop below the current level that it's at.
What were you doing last night?
5:22 wake up call this morning. 5:22.
No
my 2-year-old. I don't know.
Was that planned?
No, definitely not. Maybe in her brain, but it wasn't in my brain. And so I'm trying something. I have in my hand, I have a cup of mushroom coffee. Have you guys heard of mushroom coffee?
No.
I have heard of it, and I think it's revolting.
I am about 3 sips into it, and I feel like what I actually did was I went out to one of the beds of flowers here at ESPN and just took some mulch and stuffed it in my face because I don't like the taste of this stuff.
Do you think that it will make Mike Clay prettier, like once all the hallucinations start factoring in? And wait, it's not that kind of mushroom coffee?
Okay. I don't know. I've only had 3 sips, so maybe.
Who knows?
Do you think ever there will be a moment where Field slips a little bit? He's perfect in every way. Do you think he slips a little bit because of the lack of sleep? Think it happens?
I don't think so.
You got to see a couple of my fantasy teams. They've been slipping since the moment we drafted them. I'll tell you that much. Honestly, so usually I spend Thursday mornings whenever up early. Waivers obviously is Tuesday night. Wednesday, I think about my teams, but I always tell myself just get through the day of practice stuff because you might get some suggestions of guys that will or won't play. So Thursday morning is usually I carve out a handful of minutes to set my lineups. And I was looking at a couple of them this morning, and I was like, what on God's green earth was I thinking?
Well, at least you didn't trade a 2-second and a 3rd round rookie pick for Trey Benson hours before he was placed on IR. So because that's what I did with our old friend Kyle Soppe. So,
in our Dynasty League. I couldn't believe, actually, I thought you got you getting Trey Benson is great for you until the things happen.
Do you guys want to do that right now? I don't know if either of you have.
That's my number one takeaway.
Okay, gotcha. All right, just wanted to make sure
dive right in.
So let's just dive into our preview because we have our big things that we are watching in
There's a
Week
lot
5.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, make sure.
The playbook required a lot of last minute tweaks for all of the Niners and Rams stuff and the Bucs running backs and the Cardinals running backs. And why don't you lead us off on that topic, Daniel?
Yeah, that checks out. Trey Benson, unfortunately, on IR. Underwent arthroscopic surgery on his meniscus, expected to be sidelined 4 to 6 weeks per Adam Schefter. It is definitively, though, he is expected to come back and play again this season. That has been said a number of times. So he is a prime IR candidate for your fantasy squad. If you have someone else that's just sort of been rotating through because you've had the ability to throw someone on there, Trey Benson is a priority IR candidate. Excuse me, Trey Benson, not Trey Benson. I want to ask you guys now, with that being said, Mike, I'm going to start with you, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
Projections-wise, we're going to have Amari DiMercato, and it seems like we're going to have Michael Carter at least this week. Yeah. Maybe the Cardinals may add someone in this backfield over the next couple
Bam
weeks.
Knight, too. And
as well.
A great name.
Remember him?
So we want Bam Knight.
He's Jonathan Bam Knight.
Right.
Yeah, I originally remember him from the Jets. I was excited about that.
Cup of tea there, yeah.
When you talk about Amari DiMercato, what I think of more often than not is a guy that's a third down back. I think almost half his snaps so far in the NFL have basically been played on third down. But between him and Michael Carter, how are you projecting this offense with these backfield guys to be able to play out here in Week 5?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because they've both been somewhat effective when they've been called on. They just haven't been called on a lot. Yeah. Michael Carter, there was a time where he was the heartbeat of the Jets offense. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Mike LaFleur said that.
Yeah, so he's gotten a lot of run as a backup. We did see that in the final 2 games last season, and he was serviceable filling in for when Connor was out, and of course Trey Benson was out, and DiMercato was out, so they were down to bare bones. So he has more of that body of work of being a guy that can handle 12, 15 touches. DiMercato doesn't have that. He has 6 career games with double-digit fantasy points. He hasn't had double-digit carries in a game since his rookie season, and that was only 3 games. So I do think this will be a fairly even time share. Michael Carter did kind of let it slip yesterday that he was starting. I don't know really if it's 1A, 1B, or regardless. But also keep this in mind. Trey Benson was the clear lead back last week, and he was the starter and all that stuff. And it was almost an even snap share with DeMarcado because of game script. So we could see kind of something similar here. So I would expect Carter
in future weeks. Maybe not this week. They're playing the Titans.
Yeah. Well, good matchup here. But anyway, my point being, I think Carter will be the lead rusher, probably have an edge at the goal line. DeMarcado, change of pace rusher, could still get 8 carries or so, and also be more involved in the passing game. I don't think that this is something I want to invest much into in fantasy. However, I have no issue throwing them both on your bench and then just kind of seeing how it plays out. If it is a 70-30 split, then maybe, we have a flex option.
At the very least, blocking other people from adding those players. It's interesting because early on in Michael Carter's career, besides being called the heartbeat of the Jets offense, he was known as this pass-catching running back, this change of pace guy. Yep. Here we are. Let's see, he's 26. Wow, he's only 26. 4 years later, Michael Carter is going to be asked to be maybe something of a bell cow. I am with Mike. It certainly sounds like if you could choose just one to start, the answer would be Michael Carter. The starting thing yesterday was notable to me. I don't think he would say that unless he was directly told that by his position coach. So I've got Michael Carter ranked just ahead of Amari DeMarcado, but I do think it is worth noting. A lot of people have pointed to the fact that Michael Carter, and Mike just alluded to it, had that great role in Week 18 of last year, the only game that James Conner missed. Mike also mentioned this, but just to reiterate, there was nobody left in that game. Yeah. And in that game, he had 17 rushes for 43 yards. It was a very inefficient Week 18 effort last year from Michael Carter.
And it is, by the way, a great matchup against Tennessee. They had the most touchdowns to running backs, 5 yards per carry. So there's a shot one of them gets into the end zone or has a decent day. The question is, which one?
Which one is it going to be?
Not clear cut. So I know where a lot of us are in trouble. I have DeMarcado on my bench in the league where I traded for Benson, so he's going to end up in a flex in that league.
We're playing each other in that week.
Oh yeah, you have.
I have a
Mac
hilarious
Jones
situation.
We're both in.
It's a super flex league, and Aaron Rodgers is on a bye. Lamar Jackson might not play on Sunday.
Yep.
And Joe Flacco just got hurt.
It's Mac Jones
he got benched. Yeah, so I do have Mac Jones who will be starting for me.
Yeah, and I'm missing a few guys too, Lamb and Benson among others.
Do you think CeeDee Lamb is a bigger absence than Aaron Rodgers or Joe Flacco?
Come on.
Well, not than Lamar Jackson. That's a big one.
That's
a
okay.
big loss.
Okay.
So,
Anyway, that's actually
the bottom line is avoid if you can, but if you're in a tough spot, you could throw a dart on one of them. We don't have sometimes the best thing you could do in fantasy analysis or when setting your lineup is admit you don't know something. We don't know for sure which one's going to be. Yep. That's like the solution. You can't just force it and say, I definitively am going with one guy. It's not going to work out over time. So you got to accept what you don't know and make the best decision.
I'm going to accept that I'm actually not sure. I might need Chat's help here in this situation because I don't know who actually is better at accents. Is it Field saying Joe Flacco or is it Mike saying Amari
DeMarcado?
I would just love to know which Chat thinks is like the better accent of the two.
Hit it again. Just give me one more time.
Amari DeMarcado.
There we go. That's pretty good, Michael.
Pretty damn good right there. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, can I get a Joe Flacco from you?
Joe Flacco?
Yeah, see, I don't know. You're both pretty good in their own right for what it's worth. I've got Trey Benson. I've got Amari DeMarcado in like the 25 to 32 range. I think Michael Carter, honestly, they both are in like a 7 to 8 spot range there. So I would rather not start either one of them as well. But at least, unfortunately, if you have Trey Benson, you know that he will be back sometime this season.
Yeah, they have a bye in there too, which is nice. So we like that. It's better than him coming back and then they have their bye.
Exactly.
So at least that gives us a little breather. I believe I tweeted week 11 would be 5 weeks out. So that could be when he's back.
I don't follow you, so I have no idea what you're talking about. My first talking point for the week ahead is after a tremendous week last week.
Yep.
He just won Mike a board bet of finishing inside the top 20, that being Ashton Jeanty, of course.
Just barely.
Can Ashton Jeanty stay hot against this Colts run defense? So the positives that I pointed to yesterday on the show are not just that Ashton Jeanty reminded the world of just how talented he was this past weekend. Sunday was a virtuoso performance from Ashton Jeanty. Love seeing him break tackles. I love seeing him avoid contact. I love seeing him being a factor in the passing game on the 2 occasions that they actually threw him the football. The breakaway speed was on display. All of it was really good. He also took advantage of what we thought was going into the game and proved to be a very, very good matchup. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's as good of a matchup this weekend against the Colts for a specific reason that I will dive into. But I do think there is some yards before contact areas that the Raiders can take advantage of. I mentioned yesterday the Colts are 6th worst in terms of yards per carry, yards before contact per carry so far this season. Again, early in the season and fewer running back rushing attempts faced so far by the Colts and compared to most of the league. So that's a good thing. The bad thing, I would say, would be that the Colts have also played a ton of snaps with lead this year. If they are playing with a lead, a notable one at that, then Ashton Jeanty is not going to be on the field quite as much. That being said, we still all have Ashton Jeanty inside our top 20 of running backs this week. Anything to add on that you guys feel confident or less confident in?
No, I think that, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, it's not like the workload changed and things changed enough in week 4 where we're like, okay, this is what we thought when we drafted him.
Yep.
It's still
There's
not
still
there.
some question marks.
I think I projected him for like a 15% target share, which is about right for a guy drafted that early that we expect to be a clear lead back with little competition. He had a 6% target share in week 1, 10% week 2, 0% week 3, 10% last week. So even last week with the 2 touchdowns, which by the way, running back receiving touchdowns, very
hard to predict.
Very rare. So he might not score one the rest of the season, or maybe one. It's just that rare. So we need to get the rushing touchdowns. We need him getting more than 1 yard before contact per carry. And again, that target share needs to go up too. So it was good that he was on the field for 64% of pass plays. That's been about where he's been this season. That's kind of why I was confident, because he's at least been on the field. But we're not all the way there yet. We need more. We need better, or it's not going to be consistent.
That's why he's not inside the top 10, but rather inside the top 20 for Ashton Jeanty.
Still a starter,
In that same game, I am going to ask you a question I did not anticipate asking 5 weeks into the season, but here we are. In the unlikely event, but possible event, that you are choosing between Brock Bowers or Tyler Warren to start at tight end, who are you choosing?
I am going with Brock Bowers. I just wanted to point this out quick. That is slight aside related, but we did a redraft yesterday.
It's available on ESPN.com.
Which I'm sure,
now.
I'm sure we'll refer to it. I could not believe how far tight ends fell in that draft. I took Trey McBride in the 3rd round thinking that was a good deal. And then 6th round rolls around. I was 1 pick away from also taking Brock Bowers. I was going to take him too. Eric Moody beat me by 1 pick.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's that bad. I think there's a lot of reason for optimism going forward, certainly with McBride. Bowers wasn't healthy, but he had a huge week 1.
Yeah.
Then he got hurt. He was kind of slumping since then, but his target share was back last week. The playing time is still similar to last year. There's a lot of reasons to think Bowers is going to have a big game and be back on track and back near where he was last year. So I'm still very confident.
I disagree with the statement you just made when you said tight end's not that bad. I think tight end is that bad.
No, with those guys not at the top. I mean,
you think Brock Bowers is at the top when he's tight end 10 so far in the season?
Yeah, I still think, I mean, he hasn't been healthy. I think there's reasons based on last week to think he's getting closer to being
healthy.
I mean, who's 100%, but back to his normal stuff.
I think the difference for me is the idea that when I was drafting one of those tight ends early, there was an expectation that I would have massive positional advantage over the rest of the group.
But you felt like that probably in week 1 until he got hurt.
Until he got hurt, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, that's...
And that, to me, I think is the important part, because Bowers was back to limited practice yesterday. He had been full participation in practice in at least last week and maybe the week prior as well. It's an indication he is definitely playing through a painful knee injury right now. Maybe it's the kind of injury that once the bye hits, he comes back on the other side.
Is that an accent?
Sounds like an accent. Once the bye hits. Sorry. Once Brock Bowers' bye comes and goes, that maybe he'll be in a better spot for the rest of the season, but he is not on a bye this week, and we're still ranking for week 5. Again, I think it's very unlikely that somebody is making the choice between Brock Bowers and Tyler Warren, but based off of ADP, it's not entirely impossible. I thought it was also just kind of an interesting debate about who would you rather have for the rest of the season.
I'm pretty sure that, hold on, I'm just so sorry. I just have to interrupt you. When you said it's not impossible,
I heard that too.
Okay,
I'm trying to just let it go.
Okay, all right.
It's not impossible.
It's just the cutest thing in the world to hear you say
that.
Well, yeah, rather than impossible, you said, me fail English? That's impossible.
Yes. Me, not good at the game. Here we go. So, Ashton Jeanty, that was part 1. Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren, I am totally off kilter right now.
That's my fault.
Check out the per game averages for these guys so far in a handful of notable categories. Tyler Warren is running 28 routes per game exactly so far this season.
Okay.
Brock Bowers, 28.75 routes per game. Tyler Warren so far this season, 6.75 targets per game and 4.75 catches per game.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Bowers this season, 6.75 targets per game, 4.75 catches per game.
That's crazy.
How about this? Last thing, target shares so far for these two players. Tyler Warren, 22.7%. Brock Bowers, 22.0%. So
Very similar.
you're getting a very comparable profile. Maybe the biggest takeaway here is not that Brock Bowers is not going to end up being a very valuable part of your roster, and not that you're making the choice between these two players, even if it is not impossible, such as the case. But most importantly, I think the answer is that Tyler Warren has clearly proven to be the best value at tight end by 10,000 miles in the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, he has been awesome. I will say this, speaking of target share, 30% for Brock Bowers last week.
Yeah.
So again, there's what I saw last week was like, okay, maybe he's getting closer to where he needs to be. So we'll keep an eye on it, but I'm still confident.
Sure,
Like
go
it.
for it, Mike.
All
I
right,
think
you're up
that
next.
what we are not seeing right now, I think this is fair to state, is we are not seeing game-changing ability on the field from Brock Bowers over the past couple of weeks, which last year and week one for sure, I felt like we were getting total game-changing ability.
Agreed.
Fair.
All right,
All right,
what do you got, Mike?
Michael,
All right.
you're next.
Speaking of teams affected by injury, the Miami Dolphins
Yeah.
offense is
Yeah.
worth a look here and how we're going to attack it. Obviously, Devon Achane has been tremendous. He's a lineup lock, one of the best running backs in fantasy. Weirdly, a big carry share, but a low target share last week, which was a big change for him. But anyway, he's rocking and rolling this year. So the guys we need to talk about, certainly Jalen Waddle, who came up a little bit yesterday. I know we've talked about him throughout the week. Exactly 5 or 6 targets in all 4 games this season, averaging just 46 yards per game. So it's been a bit of a slow start. He's been bailed out by the 2 touchdowns that he scored, but a little bit different now. With no Tyreek Hill, he is the number 1 receiver. And when he was that number 1 receiver years ago, he was top 25 in fantasy points per game each of his first 3 NFL seasons. Never really got over the hump and became that elite guy, but he was just a guy that it was a clear lineup lock, a candidate for 90 to 100 catches each and every season. We did see a 24% target share on Monday night with Tyreek obviously played a chunk of that game, but left. That was a season high for Waddle.
Yep.
And it was closer to where he was early in his career. And that's, I think, the key point. If he can hang around a quarter of the targets, this is a guy that can hang in the weekly wide receiver 2 conversation. And another reason for that is his competition for targets, not great. Malik Washington, day 3 pick last year. Could be a 16-team league / dynasty stash, a guy to monitor. Nick Westbrook, Akine, maybe he scores some touchdowns like he did in Tennessee last year. Those are next up. This is a very tough matchup. Carolina, we talked about them last week. Very cover 3 heavy. They've shut down receivers so far, so I don't want to get carried away with anyone other than Waddle at receiver.
Okay.
Just keep that in mind.
There's a very important name.
There's another important name here, a guy that we're monitoring. I know we've all scooped him up, I'm sure, on waivers a little bit this week, Darren Waller at tight end. Is that who you were going to talk?
Yeah, it was for a couple of reasons here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you finish because I'm sure what I'm going to talk about you have already highlighted. What is it?
Well, we talked about it yesterday. He only played a quarter of the snaps
28%
last week.
to be
Yeah,
specific.
he had 4. Yeah, I have 25, but I don't know. What
I
our
use
source-
NFL GSIS on that.
Yeah, I think I do too. But anyway, we have to figure out why. I've noticed that we're like off by a
Well,
couple
they
percentage
updated
points.
they update the
Yeah,
snap
they do.
stuff because it counts towards incentives. So they do an initial comb and then they
Nerd alert.
Oh yeah, no, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
all
important to be precise
No
on
big
this
deal.
stuff, as you point out often.
Yes.
But still only the 4 targets, but scored 2 touchdowns. Obviously not sustainable, but they are going to use him near the goal line. We expect playing time and targets to go up with no Tyreek and as he gets acclimated. But this is something to keep in mind. He's 33 years old.
Yep.
He hasn't played more than 12 games in a season since 2020.
Yeah.
And the last time we saw him for a full season, obviously missed some time, as I pointed out, 9.4 fantasy points per game. So I don't want to get too carried away here with Darren Waller, but it's a guy right now that's worth adding on waivers and could be second in line for targets in this Miami offense. Maybe third if you consider Achane and Waddle 1-2. But there's a chance for a big role here if he can stay healthy.
On top of all the things that Mike just said, the Panthers, who they played this weekend, have done an excellent job against wide receivers, as Mike noted, but not so great against tight ends. As a matter of fact, they've allowed the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends. Yes, Hunter Henry had a big week against them. Is that last week?
Yes.
That was
weeks
last week.
ago.
That was last week.
Last week.
Henry's 2 touchdown game was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, not this past week.
Oh, I guess Henry just got in the end zone again last week. I
another
guess he just
touchdown.
scores
Yes.
touchdowns
But
nonstop.
Ajiro Evero, their defensive coordinator, was asked about how they have struggled against tight ends, and he acknowledged it. It's out there that we haven't done a great job of that area, but it's also a great opportunity for us to show growth. So this is not just one of those where it's like we just say it's a problem. Like the defensive coordinator has admitted as much. They have been struggling with tight ends so far this season. So in a desperation opportunity, if you need a tight end to step in, and there is some uncertainty surrounding Juwan Jennings, he did not practice. Juwan Johnson, excuse me, he did not practice yesterday for the Saints. Tucker Kraft is on a bye this week.
Kyle Pitts is on a bye.
Pitts is on a bye this week. Yes. So if you are totally stuck at the tight end spot, at least a speculative add on Darren Waller might have some merit. It wouldn't surprise me if a month from now he's playing 60% of the snaps for this Dolphins team, because they certainly do need him.
They really do. Honestly, imagine if they hadn't traded Jonnu Smith and then Tyreek Hill gets hurt, and then it would have opened up all those Jonnu targets again in this.
Yeah,
offense.
this actually, it's funny. This scheme they're facing is a lot like what they faced most of last season when it was all Jonnu. There were now Darren Waller and all Achane in the passing game last year, and the receivers struggled. So maybe it sets up for Waller and Achane to have some big target games.
Stop it. I've got a lot of Jalen Waddle now, and I don't want you to speak that into existence.
He's the
Mike.
only receiver we can really count on. So
That's true.
I think he'll be okay.
All right. We've done a lot of conversation about the Philadelphia Eagles. Talked a lot specifically about their pass catchers. It's been really frustrating.
Agreed.
Do you guys, though, in looking at the running back situation, we haven't done a big deep dive into Saquon Barkley after the first 4 weeks of the season.
I have a reason why, but go ahead.
Do you think this should be considered like the norm for what we're going to see in Saquon in 2025?
No. I think Saquon would get better. I think the entire Eagles offense will get a whole lot better. This is just sort of classic malaise for a team that has won 20 of its last 21 games. Saquon's way too talented. The offensive line's way too good, even while dealing with some injuries of late. I think they've faced a couple, as was highlighted by, is that Mike or Joe or both of you, talking about how since Todd Bowles became the Bucs head coach, they have been like the best run defense in the NFL. So you were,
I think it was Joe.
Yeah. So they've faced a couple of matchups that have not been as conducive to big days from Saquon Barkley. I think those are coming soon.
I just don't, like, that just doesn't mean anything to me, because last year when they faced those matchups, Saquon was just able to overcome a lot of that.
I think that's fair, but that's also why coming into the season, he wasn't the number one player in fantasy football.
Correct. Yeah. He was the number 2 or 3 running back for a lot of people on their boards. When you look at what he did in 2024, 11 games with 100 rushing yards. Yeah. He has 0 of those so far. He had 13 games with 100 yards from scrimmage. Yeah. He has none of those so far. Maybe he's just not touching the ball as much. Maybe that's the thing. But that's not the case. No. Eagles are second in the NFL in rush attempts. He, at the running back spot, is also second in rush attempts and second in touches. Last year, they averaged 5.8 yards per carry. This year, he's averaging 3.1 yards per carry. It's awful. His yards before first contact, 4.17 last year. That was first, far and away first. Yep. This year, it is 1.7. When I look at this, I recognize all the things that you just said, Field, but this is part of, right now with him being RB12, this feels like the appropriate-ish range for the historical regression when you look at a guy that had the amount of touches that he had last year. He's got 3 games still. I want to say something positive. Okay. He's got 3 games over 17 and a half fantasy points to start the season. That's really good. You would take that from your starting running back in the first round almost any day of the week. But what he's not doing is giving you those unbelievable ceiling games where he's scoring 25, 28, 30-plus fantasy points. And I think a big part of this is just like, this is what you get when you go from RB1 to RB12. I don't want to say that that's like a huge negative thing, but like, yeah, that's probably appropriate regression based on the historical context of this volume. That's the way that I look at it.
No doubt. And we spent a lot of time in the offseason talking about this as it applies to Saquon Barkley and Jamar Chase too, because to have a season like that where you make it healthy through the whole year and you are by far the number 1 scorer at your position or you know, in that conversation most of the year, the number 1, I know he rested quite a bit, and Jahmyr Gibbs passed him at the last second, but Jamar Chase by far the number 1 receiver. You need everything to be perfect, and it's almost impossible in the NFL for that to happen 2 years in a row. And that's why, you know, I made the observation with Chase, of course, that like the number 1 scorer in fantasy, like, doesn't generally do great the next year. It's just so hard to do.
Don't be so modest right now, Mike. I sent this to Mike yesterday. He had forgotten about the clip, but I just want to bring it back up here because, once again, the internet jumped on the show. I don't know why we become this easy target for some people in some corners of the internet, but Mike had a case when we were talking about something else, but it was I would not be surprised by, and Mike came with something on Jamar Chase. Mike very, I think, coherently and cogently outlined how, hey, don't be surprised if Jamar Chase finishes outside the top 20 of wide receivers. At no point did Mike make reference to like a fading skill set of Jamar Chase. It was simply that it's really hard to do back-to-back seasons of historical things.
Correct.
Injuries can take place, not just to the player himself, like Justin Jefferson a couple of years ago, but the quarterback can impact a wide receiver's outlook. All these people from all corners of the internet. This guy's a bum. This is why I don't bother listening to ESPN. This is trash. This is what happens when you let nerds go on TV.
That one was me.
podcasts.
That was my comment.
Yes. All right. And you know what? You guys can say whatever you want about Mike Clay. Whatever you want. You don't like his haircut. You think the Eagles stink. Whatever you want. I like it, and I think the Eagles are good. I'm just saying. You can make
I think this is a roast now.
No, I'm just saying you can do whatever personal shots you want. If you think Mike is ever going to come onto the show and say something without logic behind it, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Agreed.
So you owe him an apology because, hey, if I had to bet on Jamar Chase finishing outside the top 20 for the rest of this season, I might make that bet.
Yeah,
I said it yesterday.
And I think ice cream's overrated. So there
you go. Get mad at them about ice cream and his crazy takes like that. I'm just saying, like,
no,
I
appreciate that. You're right. I think that that it's logical. I mean, it's the same. It's essentially the same conversation we had with Barkley. It's just like that guy played at that level of volume and that skill level with everything going right through the Super Bowl. Yeah. I mean, the amount of touches he saw was the most since DeMarco Murray many years ago. So it's just hard to do. I will say this.
I have one counterpoint after you're done.
Okay. Yeah. As it applies to the Eagles, because Jamar Chase is obvious, right? Joe Burrow's out.
Correct.
He's seen a dip. With the Eagles, the offensive line hasn't been as dominant as years past. That's certainly a variable here. The passing game hasn't been good. They're going 3 and out a lot. It just hasn't all been there so far.
It's been harder.
But he's playing 85% of the snaps, which is up from last year. His target share is up from last year. Carry share is up from last year. He still has 18-plus carries and in every game, 4+ catches in 3 games. So that's up a little bit. So there's reason to think he'll be fine in terms of just hanging on to RB1 value.
Absolutely.
But it's just, we didn't draft him at his ceiling because it's so hard to match up with your ceiling. So we kind of saw this coming in the offseason. I'm just not shocked by what we've seen so far. It's about as the rushing efficiency. I wouldn't have predicted 3.1 yards per carry. That will fix itself. Yeah. He's too good for that. He'll have some big plays and that'll fix itself. But all in all, a return to earth to an extent, not surprising.
Last thing that I'll say is you said RB12 is about right to what about right as far as what to expect. I don't know that I can find RB12 RBs.
I would say 6 to 12.
No, that was just a general comment of like.
No, he was saying
I did.
I think that Saquon is more like at worst RB6 or 7. Like at worst,
exactly.
He could be. It could be higher. Like I think. If you give me the chance, I would take Bijan, obviously. I would take Jonathan Taylor. I would take CMC. I would take Jahmyr Gibbs. I would take Devon Achane. And then I would say
James Cook right there.
Saquon, Amari and Hampton. Maybe if things get going again, Derrick Henry. Like that to me is because look at the guys who are on our board between 6 and 10 now this week. Like Javonte Williams or Cam Skattebo. Like really? Like Alvin Kamara, I think has had one double-digit game so far this season. Like it's not like those guys are guarantees to either hold the value we have for them this week in the case of a guy like Cam Skattebo or get going because Alvin Kamara frankly hasn't.
And I do want to say just to make it about this week as well.
Yeah.
A big part of this was just about like, is this what we should expect from Saquon Barkley? Still a really good season. Still, like I said, 3 games over 17.5 fantasy points, but
Mid-tier
not the
RB1
high end.
fine.
Yeah, not the high end
He'll have
production
some
that you
games,
saw
though.
because it was historical last year. This
he'll have
week,
some.
he takes on the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
Denver Broncos got roasted by both Jonathan Taylor and Omari and Hampton. Both
Like a
scored
marshmallow.
over 24 fantasy points. So this could be another, like a nice rebound game here for Saquon to be able to do another one. All right, Field, give me your next one.
We'll rip through a couple of these here. Obviously, the first game without Malik Nabers for the New York Giants. I think the question is there a pass catcher that you think immediately vaults into usable territory this weekend? Let me give you the names involved. You guys can decide whether there's value in any of them or not. Amongst wide receivers, Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton are the 2 players likely to play the most snaps for this Giants offense. At tight end, it's second-year player Theo Johnson. I don't think there's anybody else that is being bandied about right now as a name that could be on the fantasy radar consistently for the Giants. Do you guys disagree with that?
No, I would agree with you. It could match up against the Saints, but I'll get to that. All right,
so are any of those 3 players? Okay, so you can save your thoughts there.
Yeah.
So preview, Mike will talk more about them. But I would just say this. My personal assessment, without being like super specific with some of the numbers, is just that out of those 3 players, the guy that I think has the best chance to emerge as like a weekly starter in PPR formats is, of course, Wan'Dale Robinson. We talked about how he is just an incredibly high-volume player and has been in prior years. He was red hot in weeks 1 and 2, and the ball has to go somewhere. The mitigating factors are that the team threw the ball 21 times last week. In some ways, the Saints might be a good matchup in Mike's eyes. The only concern for this week might be the Giants could throw the football again 21 times. It might be that Wan'Dale actually proves more valuable in games when they play Philadelphia, like they do next Thursday night, where they could be down by 14 points early in the game. The most usable player in this roster right now is Cam Skattebo, who I have this week. Let me get the specific number. I believe it is number 9 in my running back rankings, which is right in line with Mike and Daniel after, how about this, 25 rushing attempts last week, the most of any running back in the NFL. And to my point about game script and how this week might be more running than throwing, the Giants are only 1.5-point underdogs on the road in New Orleans this weekend. For those that don't know, generally speaking, Vegas is giving the home team a 1.5 advantage because of playing at home. So this is basically, in Vegas's eyes, a flip the coin game between the Giants and the Saints.
Is this the first game this year in which the Saints are overdogs?
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
It's probably the only game they will be all season as well. We could confirm that, I'm sure, with the ESPN bet, but it's probably pretty rare.
I think the Giants are better than advertised because now they have a better quarterback and their defense is underrated. Yeah.
So I've got Skattebo as a top 9 running back for me. I think there is some question, though. So we all see it the same way this week, correctly. Got to get a little bit more in the passing game, but 25 rushing attempts is nothing to shake a stick at. For the rest of the season, field in the blank. Cam Skattebo will be a top blank running back for the rest of the season.
I would say
I have my numbers very specific.
This goes back to the depth at RB2 because when Tyrone Tracy comes back and he has somewhat of a role, that's going to knock him to the back end of that RB2 conversation. So I would say conservatively top 25. I could give him top 20 though because I think he's shown enough to hang in there and they're going to use him a lot. So I'll say if I had to pick a number, he'll finish 18th the rest of the way.
Okay. Ooh, I like that. I was going to say one more than whatever Saquon Barkley is going to finish, but that's just because I'm being a troll, guys. Let's be honest. I think he'd be a top 20 running back, though. And watching this kid run the football, my buddy Scott, who's a Giants fan, texted me, and he was just like, holy smokes, I had no idea we had a battering ram at running back now.
He's definitely a battering ram. I hope he holds up because he runs very physical.
He is a very physical
I'm going RB24 for the rest of the season. Okay. Mike, you're up.
Okay. Next one for me is Are you starting? Speaking of running back twos, starting or sitting Woody Marks
this week.
Yeah. This week, he has the Ravens. His snap percentage has increased each week. It got up to 58%. That was a career high last week. 17 carries, 69 yards and a touchdown. 4 catches, 50 yards and a touchdown. Sounds a lot like Cam Skattebo recently. For sure. His rushing volume did benefit from them actually winning a game handily, which is not something we had seen so far this season. But when I look closely at how he was used, it was throughout the whole game. So it wasn't like Nick Chubb was clearly the lead back, and then late in the game, it was all Woody Marks. It was not like that at all. They clearly made an effort to utilize him early in the game. As we know, he was one of the best pass-catching backs coming in through the NFL draft this year. Nick Chubb still had 15 touches last week, but again, it was a lot of volume in that backfield, and Nick Chubb has faded a little bit. Obviously, the Ravens defense, the most injury plagued in the NFL by far. They've allowed the most touchdowns so far to running backs. They've allowed the most fantasy points to running backs. So
that seems bad.
Woody Marks is, I think, well positioned here this week. I have him at 25 in my rankings because, again, RB2, I just can't hammer it enough. There's so many good options in there.
23 for me.
I think I have him on some teams. I feel pretty good throwing him in my flex or even my RB2 slot.
Very instructive week to me going forward.
Agreed,
for Woody Marks, because if they sort of once again playing 50 to 55 or 60% of the snaps this week, and Nick Chubb plays 42% of the snaps, it's a sign that the intention for now is to continue to keep this as a committee. If it's 65 to 70% of the snaps for Woody Marks, giddy up.
Yeah.
That's a big number though. I mean, if you're a running back playing 70%, that's like we're talking good RB2. That's a big number.
Yeah.
So I would be fine with 58, 60 in that range as long as he's at least splitting the carries, maybe like the 1A in the carry department, but also the passing game works huge for him.
Yeah.
Like he can be this year's Bucky Irving to an extent if he gets that passing down more too.
How worried are you about this offensive line ranking below a number of Division II schools in college right now?
Yeah,
Like, are you
pretty
worried
worried.
about how bad it is?
Unsurprising issue there.
Specific to this week, though, not as worried because the
of
Ravens
Baltimore.
are so gashed.
Yes.
So
That checks
fair
out.
going forward, not as fair for this week.
Yeah. This is the matchup. I mean, taking on the Ravens. How crazy is it that 5 weeks into the season, and we're saying, you know what I want to do? I want to start all my running backs against the Ravens.
And your wide
defense.
receivers too, right? I mean, with
This
the
is
injuries
what
they have in
happens.
the back end.
Look
yeah.
at your Lions. I mean, they were an elite defense in the first half last year, and then we were picking on them down the stretch.
Because everyone got hurt.
They
Yeah.
lost in the playoffs because they couldn't stop
Yep.
Jaden Daniels because, hey, nobody left on D. I mean, it happens. The Ravens, on paper, were a legit powerhouse this year, which is no surprise. I mean, they've been good for so long, but this happens to teams. Yeah. Everyone gets hurt, and it's just like, what can we do? We're just playing practice squatters. Like, we're starting practice. You know exactly what
I know
I'm talking
exactly
about.
how that feels.
It's impossible. So
Yeah,
the Ravens, I think, will rebound at some point, but I would not be surprised if they lose at home to Houston this week. This is a tough ask. For that
in
team.
Baltimore.
Yeah. It'd be tough for me not to start Woody Marks just against how bad this Ravens defense has been, and the fact that we've had a number of running backs that I feel like are underperforming. He's close to a top 20 guy for me.
What do you got there?
I got one more. Judkins, excuse me. Can he keep it rolling?
Yeah.
Last 2 weeks, 19 fantasy points combined over the last 2 weeks, 16.5 against the Packers. We thought the Packers had a good defense. I'm still trying to figure out what the Packers defense is, if I'm honest.
They were
They
the
might just not be
Packers
the best
defense
ever,
is
is what
is
I'm
like
saying.
the Saints offense of last year.
Yes, where it
2
started
weeks
out
are like,
so
wow,
hot.
look at this
Yeah.
juggernaut, and
Good
then
call. Yeah.
they come crashing back to earth. Yeah.
But he did score 21.5 fantasy points against the Lions last week, gets the Vikings this week, and the Vikings were just torched by Kenny Galladay for 31.5 fantasy
Gainwell,
points.
but
Yes.
Kenny Galladay.
Did I say Kenny Galladay again? Oh my gosh, Kenny Gainwell. It's because I was thinking about making a payday Galladay joke earlier in the show when you were
man.
talking about
I
Giants
love
wide
that guy.
receivers.
I can't-
Awesome.
What a name! What a name to pull.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's we haven't thought about Kenny Galladay in a minute. Sorry about that. Also against this squad though, against the Vikings, Bijan and Tyler Algier both scored over 15 fantasy points. Bijan almost had 20. So this feels like a great situation. And after just 2 games as the lead back, Judkins looks like the man. He is the
RB11
only
in back-to-back weeks.
must start for me right now in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, involvement in the passing game on top of the massive carry totals.
He's been
effective
great.
in a bad offense, and maybe the offense is better. I mean, again, we talked about it yesterday. It can't be much worse. Maybe Dylan Gabriel could complete passes and keep them competitive. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, he's a big one for me. I am inside my top 10 this week. Field, what about you? Where are you going?
Last one here. It's the headline is, can Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson take advantage of what is the best matchup you're going to see in fantasy football for both a quarterback and a wide receiver?
a long
the Cowboys
headline.
have allowed the most fantasy points to both quarterbacks and wide receivers this season. My bad. Yes, we all have them ranked accordingly. Mike said Justin Fields is QB2 for him this week.
Yeah.
I think we all have him as a top 3 or 4 quarterback. It's very, very, very high for Justin.
Yeah.
Same thing for Garrett Wilson inside all of our top 5s this week. I actually wanted to reserve a little more time, though, on Breece Hall and talk about something that took place on Monday night that we didn't dive into a ton because we did not have all the information. But Braylon Allen, who was the Jets' second running back, is now heading to injured reserve, according to Rich Cimini, after Aaron Glenn said it was a significant injury he's dealing with to a foot. That matters. It's not that Breece Hall did not have value with Braylon Allen. Breece has actually been rock solid so far, but we do know that Braylon Allen was the biggest threat, not named Justin Fields, to goal line work for Breece Hall. A little bit of a potential uptick here for Breece Hall without Braylon Allen for some period of time. Isaiah Davis, if you are in a very deep league, is the next running back up for the Jets, and I don't think this is going to be Breece Hall playing 85% of the snaps like Saquon Barkley. It might be 62, 63% of the snaps because he's yet to play, Breece, more than 64% of the snaps in a game this season. But Breece, who was a very, very radioactive player in the preseason, all of a sudden has become the kind of guy that might be entrenched as your second running back for the rest of the season because the role is there. And the part that I've been most excited about for Breece, and not that I doubted this, but the Jets didn't do this. There were some indications that the Jets did not feel this way. The Jets flat out never said this, but there were some indications this might be the case. Breece Hall's a baller. He is so good.
He's really good.
And, like this guy is super talented. Like he's probably one of the 10 most talented running backs in the entire NFL right now is Breece Hall. Happy to see him to get the opportunity to play a top 10 running back type role.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm higher than you guys this week, probably because I moved him up a couple spots after Allen was
Braylon
placed on
Allen
IR. By the way, it looks like Allen's injury will probably take him to or past the trade deadline. So less worried about a Breece Hall trade here. I imagine he'll stay put this season. I'd be surprised if
you'd have to get
changed.
blown away
If
if you're
they-
the Jets. Like if someone sent you a 3rd round pick for Breece Hall, I think.
Yeah, but that was
giddy
the
up.
thought that like he might be one of them guys if they're
totally.
2-7 or whatever it might be, and move him. So
That would be a win now. Like if the Chiefs call and they're like, we're so desperate and we're 3-4, we can't get the running game going. How about a 3rd round pick?
Speaking of
for
which, Shard Smith might. There's rumors they're going to expand his role. And
Graziano,
we've seen them use late picks right away as rookies. He's been
saw
mixed
that
in.
this past week actually. As well.
Yeah, great stuff by the way. That was Dan and
Jeremy every week.
Jeremy did that. That was
Buzz file.
Yeah, very very good article. Lots of good content in there. But yeah, I mean I have him as an RB1 right now, and he might hang on as a mid to back end RB1 going forward. Should he, with Braylon Allen out, of course. So yeah, a lot of confidence there.
Do you guys remember when we were in the Bahamas? We were doing a fantasy draft over the Bahamas with our buddy Matthew Berry, and it's for a different league that we're in with each other.
Yeah.
And I auto drafted overnight by accident Breece Hall, and I was like, "Dang it, guys! Shoot, I don't want to." You know what though? Don't roll it back from me. Good
I'll
managers
take
can
Breece,
overcome bad draft picks, guys. I feel great that I accidentally auto drafted Breece Hall this year.
Were you going after Chase Brown?
I was going to go after somebody, not Breece Hall, but Breece Hall has worked out. I've got him as a top 11 running back, and I love this matchup against the Cowboys. So I'm with you, Field.
Last one for you, Mike.
Last one, Mike.
That's it. Mine is on the receiver corner.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I
we'll get there in just a
had
minute.
lots of other topics, but Tyler was like,
Lock
Daniel
it up.
Field took all of them.
No,
So
you're not allowed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
All right. So receiver corner.
Not yet.
Not yet, Mike.
Not so fast, my friend.
To quote the greatly.
That's right. Now it's time for the real deal presented by Little Caesars. We're going to go around the table every single week. I've got it this week.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to pick one player rostered under 60%. And here's the deal. If they reach 15 or more fantasy points, you can come back on Monday for a 15% off promo code from Little Caesars. So
Wait, who can? Me? Mike?
all of us, everybody.
listeners.
There
the
better be
viewers.
a Little Caesars cheese pizza center right there.
Yes, the viewers, the listeners, everybody that consumes the show.
No
If
way.
the player that we have chosen, and I'm picking it this week, we're going to go around the table in future weeks, where we're picking a guy under 60% rostered. This week, I am going to choose for our listeners
There's pizza on the line.
Jaxson Dart, who was
Yeah,
projected
that's
over 16.1 fantasy points in week 5, taking on the Saints. If you remember what he did this last week, 10 carries for 54 yards and a rushing touchdown. Also did some things with his arms, but I was most excited about what he did with his legs.
Both arms?
19. He was mostly his right arm. I shouldn't have said plural arms.
He danced with both arms.
19.8 fantasy points last week. The Saints have allowed the fifth most points to quarterbacks so far this year. In fact, all 4 quarterbacks the Saints have faced, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Sam Darnold, and even Mac Jones, have hit at least 16.5 fantasy points so far this year. So Jaxson Dart is our player for the real deal, presented by Little
feel
Caesars.
Confident. My pizza confidence.
We have
meter
a
is
shot
high.
at pizza on Monday.
I expect pizza.
So that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be hopefully if things go right, you guys can, that'll be a me thing. If things go wrong, you can blame me. I'm used to taking some of that after the Chase
I
Brown
won't
call this
blame
year.
you. I mean, pizza is on the line. I cannot be more clear about
Yes, this is important right now. Yeah. So that'll be a lot of fun. Jaxson Dart is our player for this week. We'll continue to see if hopefully everyone's going to root for him to get over 15.5 fantasy points.
When I was young, I was on a basketball team and I was on the bench because I was not very good and I was very tiny growing up. But we had a year where our team was a powerhouse and we were undefeated.
Wow.
Never lost a game. I still have like the little trophy, which for me was like a participation trophy. 'Cause, I mean, technically I was on the team, but I would play when we were just, I've got a lot of work in garbage time, put it that way. But if we scored 50, we got a pizza party. The coach would buy us pizza.
Oh, that's
the
so
next day.
exciting.
So there's a lot. Pizza is a good motivator in
It is.
my and our
It
life.
is.
So,
I love that.
I agree.
Yeah. So
we could
let's
all
do
use
it.
a little pizza. All right, let's talk about the Shadow Report, my friend. Mike Clay, you do this every single week, breaking down important wide receiver cornerback matchups.
Yep.
Give us a couple of upgrades.
Yeah, I have a lot here, so I'm going to just whirl through these. You guys stop me at any time. We'll start with Michael Pittman in the Colts.
I'm good right now if you want to stop.
Okay. Go ahead. What's your thoughts?
I love it.
Come on, give us
I
no,
can't not.
No,
I can't not, Michael.
No, you stop me, so you guys have to do the analysis.
Okay.
Michael Pittman's got a good matchup this
I'm
week.
going to sit back and enjoy this. Yeah.
Michael Pittman scored in 3 of 4 matchups so far this year, Mike.
He has been awesome. One of my favorite. He was this year's Cortland Sutton for me. That was what I called him. I loved Sutton in the 10th round last year, and Pittman was about there this year. Nice bounce back. Great matchup against the Raiders here. Third most fantasy points allowed to receivers so far, and the eighth highest EPA against the pass. So we've picked on the Raiders every week. I'll leave it at that. Good matchup for Pittman. We can't really trust any other Colts receivers right now, but
agreed.
I want to ask just for our listeners and viewers at home, in case people don't know what EPA is. We've mentioned it a couple times, a lot of times in this segment. What does EPA stand for?
Available.
Expected point. Yeah. Well done.
I like
Jaxson
it.
Dark gets
I
over
like
15
that.
We need a
fantasy
metric
points.
for this.
Yes.
Yeah. Well done. Expected points added. So it's essentially an efficiency stat. So if you're, we don't have to get really into the details, but third best, if you're, in this case, the eighth highest EPA allowed to the pass means they're bad against the pass. They're eighth worst against the pass.
Got it.
And vice versa. So
by the way, EPA, like an astronomically high number for EPA is like 0.28 because it's 0.28 points added per play, right?
Yeah,
so
per
like
play.
a lot of numbers are like, 0.07 to like negative 0.12 or something.
Yeah. It's a more valuable way than just, yards can be distorted and such. So it's just a valuable efficiency stat, with many of which we have from our great SIG team. Next one, Giants receivers against the Saints. Again, another team we picked on most weeks, but they've lived up to it. They've lived up to the concern here. Fourth highest EPA against the pass, fourth most fantasy points to the perimeter this season. They're mid-pack in fantasy points allowed to receivers. Sometimes you need, perspective on this. You might look at your player, Wan'Dale Robinson or Darius Slayton, and say, well, they're mid-pack. This isn't a great matchup. They faced the fifth fewest wide receiver targets. So if you adjust for that, they've been pretty terrible against that position. So it makes Wan'Dale, who you talked about, Darius Slayton, more appealing starting options this week. Last one in upgrades. Again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but Garrett Wilson up against the Cowboys, the most fantasy points allowed overall. They've allowed the most fantasy points to the left perimeter and the right perimeter this season. It has been terrible across the board. The worst defensive EPA overall and against the pass, and they've allowed the most yards and touchdowns with 9 to wide receivers. Three receivers in 4 games have hit 28 fantasy points against them. And as we talked about yesterday, Daniel, I don't think it's going to be Alan Lazard or Tyler Johnson or Josh Reynolds. It's probably going to be Garrett Wilson that comes close to that number.
Mason Taylor is signing up for a 3-touchdown game here this week. So
There you go. Yeah.
if Romeo Dobbs can find the end zone 3 times, I would like to think that Garrett Wilson can maybe also make that happen.
Yeah, those second-rounder tight ends I'm monitoring. Mason Taylor now worth a bench spot. He's had a couple good weeks. Elijah Arroyo's role has expanded, but A.J. Barner's kind of in his way now. And Terrence Ferguson probably going to be active this week. He hasn't played much, but Tyler Higbee's not going to play. Yep. So he'll get some run tonight, actually, in Thursday Night Football. So I hope he sees a few targets.
Hopefully. Never mind.
No,
it was going to be a bad joke. It was going to be a bad joke.
I want to hear it now.
Hopefully, Lions second-round tight end Sam Laporta also gets involved because he has been as absent as those guys you just mentioned is what it feels like.
No, that's fair. That's a fair joke. I like it.
Thanks, bud.
All right, downgrades. What? I'm just giving you.
I know. You're too nice of a guy.
Friend.
You are a supportive
Unlike
friend.
you
Mike.
guys, just like booing my dad jokes on Sundays.
I don't boo
actually
your
am
dad
supportive.
jokes. I'm not even at the desk. I laugh at them from the other side of the studio. Don't you hear me?
People
Actually,
can
that's
hear
true.
you.
Daniel is a very good courtesy laugher.
I try to make sure that everyone
So
feels.
is Joe. Joe's the best courtesy.
Joe's
laugher,
good.
So I
Because he
appreciate
also laughs silently.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does do that too.
Yeah.
But I can hear it. He's right next to me. All right, guys, let's do downgrades. A.J. Brown against Pat Surtain II. I don't know if it's going to be a bounce-back week for A.J. Brown here going up against these Broncos.
Quentin Johnston just did it. Maybe A.J. Brown can do it.
I mean, Johnson had a great game for a game where he was shadowed full-time against Pat Surtain. He had 14 fantasy
Yeah,
points,
he was awesome. Yeah, 14.
That's going to be tough. He's shadowed in all 4 games this year, and those receivers averaging 9.2 fantasy points per game. So tough spot here for one A.J. Brown.
I would give up my firstborn child to get 9 fantasy points from A.J. Brown right now, if I'm honest.
Yeah, he did. I mean, 2 weeks ago, he had, 25 or so? He had a huge game.
He had a huge game. Yeah, that's not the game we're talking about.
No,
we're talking
tough.
about the consistency right now.
It's a tough assignment. Next one, Cortland Sutton, same game. Unlike last year, Quinyon Mitchell has changed his role. He is shadowed in all 4 games so far this season. Pickens, Devontae Adams, Ibuka, and he has shadowed Hollywood Brown in the first half of that Chiefs game. Pickens had 3.5 fantasy points. Devontae Adams had 14.6. And Ibuka, remember, almost did nothing that whole game. Then he caught that long one that had just slipped through 2 defenders. He caught it and walked into the end zone.
Yep.
Otherwise, he had a quiet day. So Eagles have been good against the pass so far. This is going to be a tough assignment here for Cortland Sutton. Next up, another shadow, George Pickens against Sauce Gardner. coming off a couple. Actually, Pickens has 17 plus fantasy points now in 3 straight games. So he's been terrific even when CeeDee Lamb was out there. Sauce has shadowed DK Metcalf and Mike Evans already this season. They had 12.3 fantasy points and 13.3 fantasy points. So he's done a pretty good job. Maybe a return to earth here a little bit for Pickens, but you got to start him. I mean,
Sauce was upset this last week with some calls. I saw some comments that Sauce made.
He was. Yep.
Feels a little saucy. I'm interested to see how
spicy
aggressive
sauce.
he's going to be this
sauce
week.
in that moment. Yeah.
well, they need him because they have he's quite the assignment this week against Pickens, who's been red hot. But again, we're still starting him, but downgrade may be more helpful in DFS there. 2 quick ones here. Dolphins receivers against the Panthers. I mentioned this earlier. Second fewest fantasy points, the fewest yards and lowest catch rate to receivers. Only one receiver has hit 11 points against them, and it was last week, Stephon Diggs. He's the only one to hit 11 against them. So tough assignment for the Dolphins receivers. And finally, Browns receivers. This is an easy one because we don't really want to start any of them anyway.
Correct.
Including Jerry Jeudy. Fewest fantasy points allowed to receivers for Minnesota, as well as, here's that stat again, the lowest EPA allowed to the pass so far this season. By the way, Jerry Jeudy has not reached 12 fantasy points in a game this year. Might be tough to do it this week.
Do you think that Jerry Jeudy sees more or less production with rookie Dylan Gabriel under center? Is a fire lit under this Browns team? Can it get worse?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, Michael.
Yes,
that was good. Come on.
Yes.
I wish, for those of you that are audio listeners, this is why you need to watch the YouTube chat. Yesterday, Shedeur Sanders was asked a question about why he wasn't playing, and he just basically like mimed his answer. That's what Mike just did here. That was really funny, Mike. That was good.
Well done by you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
shout out to
I'm
you,
here
my
for.
friend.
I'm here for as the joke guy.
Our director actually was
like-
very nervous that
like,
the
did
mic cut out.
Yeah.
So
I did all the hand effects.
That was awesome. Mike.
Yeah,
was
so
great.
I do. I think it has to be a little better than what it's been so far. They've had a light schedule, had it beat up, struggling defenses, and they have not produced. So I hope so. If not, we'll see. Shedeur Sanders out there. We'll see what happens.
I think it's going to be a while before we see a second quarterback change.
You think so? I think it could be another 4-week window here, and then another look, depending on
how
how he
much
plays.
pressure there is. Yes, if they're playing poorly and there's a lot of external pressure, and sometimes people at high levels of the organization start to exert some influence, then yes, you might see a player who, of course, if he starts, would draw every bit of television coverage you could ask for in the weekly.
I mean, I want, selfishly, I would just want to see it. I just want to
course.
see him get a look.
Absolutely.
I do. So
Totally. Yep.
Yeah, so that's it for downgrades. The only other one I'm watching here, but I'm not really going to move the needle, is Marvin Harrison up against L'Jarius Sneed. He's getting healthier. Sneed is playing a little better. He has been shadowing most weeks so far this season. The receivers he faced have been fine so far, actually pretty good for the most part, but I think it's just taken him some time to get back to his 2023 self, and the Titans have allowed the 6th most fantasy points to receivers. So Marvin Harrison, higher bust risk than usual with this matchup against Sneed, but I think you can still start him and feel okay about it.
this feels like, and this is not a celebrating injuries in any way, shape, or form, but if you told me that James Conner was going to get hurt and be done for the year, and we were going to lose Trey Benson even, and we're going to be to these like 3rd and 4th string running backs, I just say to myself, how many targets can we just give to Marvin Harrison?
I don't think it'll change.
I agree with you, and that's so infuriating because it doesn't feel. If I expect more, I think I'm just setting myself up for failure, unfortunately.
Yep. The Cardinals are the third pass heaviest offense in the NFL. Chargers and Chiefs are.
How is that possible?
Well,
where are
they've
all
been
the
ahead
targets?
They've been ahead a lot, so they just there hasn't been a lot of pass volume in that offense, and Kyler's been running a little bit more. That's kind of dried up the last couple of weeks to some extent. So I'm still confident Harrison could be a guy we feel good starting each week, which is not. He's been all over the map so far this season. I have a question for you guys. Which team has, when they have the ball, so we're just talking about when they're on offense, which team has trailed least often so far this season?
Team that has trailed least
So they've been ahead or tied at the highest
Colts?
rate. Nope. It's going to surprise you.
Cardinals.
And it kind of explains a little bit here. No, not the Cardinals. It explains a little bit of the lack of production and perhaps
Jaguars?
volume from their pass. Yes. The Jags.
Wow.
6%.
Do you think the Jaguars
Their
defense
offense
is real for fantasy purposes?
I'm lukewarm. Like Trayvon Walker now is going to be out probably for a little while, which is going to hurt. I don't think so. I think they're going to come back to earth a little bit. I think they're okay.
Play the Chiefs Monday night. That's got to be. No, I was going to get something hyperbolic out there.
Yeah, it's a
one of
tricky
the
one.
biggest regular season games for Jacksonville in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah,
game on
it
Monday,
is.
I remember seeing it on the schedule at the beginning of whenever that was released back in May, and I was like, really, Jaguars Chiefs Week 5? Like, I know it's the Chiefs and Travis Hunter, but like, is that game even going to be competitive? It's going to be a good game on Monday
now.
night.
It feels
really
like
good game.
Especially if, we might see something different. If the Chiefs are ahead in this game.
Yeah.
Maybe we actually get to see the Jags flinging the ball around a little bit in the second half. We just haven't seen it. They have not had to throw the ball because they've trailed 6% of the time.
And there is a chance that Liam Cohen legitimately fights Andy Reid at the end of the game. So, we'll see how that works out.
There, I think.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff, Mike.
Yeah,
Anything else on those?
That's it. It was a big one this week. We're going to have some light weeks. I feel like we have back-to-back big ones. It kind of depends on the matchups. And that's actually, there's 4 teams on a bye, so it's kind of surprising how heavy it was this week.
A lot of big wide receivers on bye, too, when you look through those teams. Like there's a lot of guys that we would normally be trusting. Go check out the rest of the playbook that Mike does. It's not just the Shadow Report. Mike, you have a bunch of great stuff in the playbook, helping everybody get set up for their fantasy matchups every single week. Let's dive into a little Thursday Night Football preview, if you guys don't mind. We got the 49ers, or what's left of them at least, taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Couple of big, quick injury updates right now. There's going to be no Brock Purdy. There's going to be no Ricky Pearsall. There's going to be no Juwan Jennings. We already knew that George Kittle was on IR.
Still no Brandon Ayuk.
Nope. So it is Christian McCaffrey and Demarcus Robinson and who else? Kendrick Bourne at wide receiver.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious here. Tonight with the 49ers, absent Christian McCaffrey, the only way you're playing a player from this roster is if you are in a very deep league. Like 16-team league. Like you might see a couple of 49ers wide receivers started in the War Room League tonight. 10-team league, I do not. Could one of them have a decent night? Sure, it's possible. But this Rams defense is outstanding. I am avoiding if I can.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to your league to add players, you're the top of the you sort by projected points for receiver. You're probably going to see Ricky or Demarcus Robinson and Kendrick Bourne there right around 10 points because they're going to throw the ball 35 times or so, and they have to go somewhere. And their number 3 receiver is Sky Moore, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like, they're probably going to try to lean into those 2 guys and Jake Tonjes and obviously 30% target share for CMC so far. They're going to give him as much as he can handle in this game. So. And by the way, this could be a very one-sided affair too. I don't want to say that about Kyle Shanahan because he's, if anyone can pull off an upset, it's him here. Yeah. But this is going to be a tough challenge against a fairly healthy Rams team.
With all of these guys being out, do you think right now Rams are rostered in 40%? Rams defense rostered in 40% of leagues. Do you think that they are like a sneaky? This is the streaming defense.
Yeah, I had them last week, and I had waiver claims set to go elsewhere. And obviously, I pulled that back with everyone out for the Niners, so I'm running them into the ground.
Yeah, if you need a defense this week, Rams,
you better run them into the ground for the next 4 weeks, including tonight. 49ers with all the pieces they're out. Play the Ravens next weekend. Lamar Jackson, not a certainty to play in that game. The Jaguars, who have been excellent defensively, not so good offensively, and the Saints. So for the next 4 weeks, that's exactly the defense you want.
Yeah. Very good front seven. Some question marks in the secondary, but there's some talent there too, some young talent. But yeah, very good defense.
Yep. Wow, that's incredible. All right, on the other side, let's talk about the Rams. Any major takeaways that you guys have from the Rams? First off, we know that the wide receivers are really good.
Yeah, Puka Nacua, he was the first overall pick in our redraft yesterday, and rightfully so. But by far the number 1 receiver.
Yes, I had to choose between him and Bijan Robinson. I just felt like I had to go with Puka there.
I don't think you could go wrong, but it's hard to go against Nacua now.
Yeah, the Rams are this nice team who, once again, just gives us very straightforward answers for fantasy.
Every year. We love Sean McVay.
We love Sean McVay.
Never retire.
You are starting Kyron Williams. You are starting Puka Nacua. You are starting Devontae Adams. Matthew Stafford was outstanding this past weekend, had over 27 fantasy points. You can probably find a better option at quarterback, but again, in a deep league, Stafford, even without any rushing whatsoever, can always go off for 250 passing yards and 3 touchdowns.
You said not. That's what I was going to talk about. So you said it very well, but I wanted to point out, you said no rushing whatsoever. Actually, he's lost fantasy points from his rushing.
Is that right?
It's -4 rushing yards this season.
Amazing. Yeah.
Has 1 rushing touchdown the last 8 years, I believe it is. He's just
amazing.
Getting you nothing there. So, yeah.
Can I ask you guys about the running backs? Because I've been a little bit surprised the last 2 weeks because Kyron Williams, I think, is still the clear lead back there. He's had 29.6 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks combined.
That's good, right?
Blake Corum, only 8.9 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks combined. But when I look at their touches, Blake Corum has 19 touches to Kyren Williams 38. I feel like we're just seeing a little bit more Blake Corum than we have seen in the past. Like, Mike, when you look at this, do you see like the projections becoming a little bit more of like not a committee, but they're just utilizing a second running back in ways that we haven't seen Sean McVay do in the past?
Nothing too massive. I mean, maybe instead of ranking him RB or projecting out like RB 80s, RB 12, So yeah, last year we saw this, especially as the year went on. We saw Blake Corum get entire series. Like Kyren get the first one, Corum the second one, Kyren third, Corum fourth, and then it was basically all Kyren
and
the rest
Kyren
of the
nothing.
game.
Yeah, the rest of the way.
This year they would like take it easy early in the game. Maybe this year they're taking it easy on him a little bit early in the season because they did give him an extension. Like he's not going anywhere. So if I have Kyren, I'm not worried, but occasionally you might lose a goal line carrier, a couple of touches. You're going to lose some points, but at the end of the day, he's still their clear feature back.
You got like a fringe RB1 coming into the season. Maybe he is a little bit closer to like a mid-tier RB2, but whether he's in your lineup or not is not a different conversation compared to where it was a month ago.
Yes.
Yeah, but I will say this: Blake Corum, the clear insurance running back. He's that guy. Do you have them? I know you guys do too. Like them guys that are on and off your roster throughout the week. Like they got to pick up someone to start. And I drop Corum, but then I add him back the next week. He's one of them guys that if Kyren goes out, and remember, Kyren has been very healthy the last couple of years, but if he misses time, it's gonna be Corum. And I wasn't a huge fan of him coming in. I like Hunter, who they drafted this year more. So I'd definitely scoop him up as like a stash if something happens to Kyren. Just keep an eye on it. But Corum very clearly would get the first shot at that job.
Okay, pick this game, guys.
I will go with the Rams.
You guys don't have any love for Stefania? No one wants to stand up for Stefania in the show?
You can. Go for it. Yeah.
I'll take the Rams as well. I'll do that.
I'm trying to find my score here.
Oh, our producers are taking the 49ers. Thank you. At least the producers are doing it. Thank you, guys. We needed that.
That's a bold call. It's in LA, 24-18. So I'm actually giving
than you
some.
Expect, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's far off the line. I think it's
the line moved from 3.5 to 7.5 following the Brock Purdy news.
I would take the over on that. I would take
over.
You think
I think they will. Yeah, so they will cover on that. Yeah.
Cover.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Last piece of business, shall we, with the Raheim Sanders Monopoly Fund?
That's right. Field, in case people are just listening in, explain the Raheim Sanders Monopoly Fund to our listeners.
You have an opportunity to pick a player who is rostered, in under 0.5% of leagues. If that player scores a touchdown this weekend, you get all this fake Monopoly money from the Jug. Mike actually already nailed this with Tyquan Thornton all the way back in week 2. Since then, we have been shut out.
Yeah, who did we have last week?
$30 in the pot.
I almost went Tommy Tremble last week, and he didn't score. I thought about Greg Dortch, he didn't score, and I forget who I ended up picking, honestly.
Same with me.
It was Isaiah Bond. He did not score.
Okay. I'm going with this week. I am going with Texans wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson, rostered in just 0.1% of leagues. We saw more of Jaden Higgins last week. That was cool. Probably not good for Xavier Hutchinson, but really good matchup against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore.
He's in the all route running club this year, and actually throughout his career so far. Mine is, I'll go second here. A guy that's getting a little bit, here's my $5, a little bit of a promotion this week. Third rounder from 2023. He's yet to score a touchdown on 61 career targets. It is, of course, Jalen Hyatt of the New York Giants.
Ooh, nice.
Probably get a handful of targets here, and we'll see if he can turn them into something. He had one of the best catches of the preseason for a touchdown. So Jalen Hyatt, let's see it. Now's a shot.
Let's see it. I'm going to go with the number 2 pass catcher, or maybe just the number 2. Never mind. I'm going to go different
You're
direction.
nailing this.
Well, I was going to say something, but I recognized before it came out that it was an NSFW by accident thing that I didn't mean to say.
Okay.
But I'm going to go with a guy that touches the ball a lot in this offense, and it's going to be Greg Dortch. Only 0.4% rostered right now.
Yeah.
Yep. And he has 8 touches over the last 2 games. Marvin Harrison only has 9 touches over the last 2 games. So
not great, Bob.
Not great, but I'm going to go with him finding a way into the end zone, especially with the lack of running backs.
Coming back. He's still questionable with the concussion.
That game in
Dortch
Arizona
is questionable too,
or
with
in
the collarbone.
Dortch is questionable right now. He had 2 rush attempts as well, so you'd love to be able to see that. Producers are going to go with Khalif Raymond to get in the end zone, rostered in 0.2% of leagues. Got in the end zone last week with a punt return for a touchdown. Almost had a reception for a touchdown as well last week. So we'll see how that works.
I wonder why they picked him, but I see that they forgot the Y in his name there, so that explains it.
Oh,
that's
no why.
There's no
great.
reason,
Khalif Ramond right now.
Everyone
Khalif
loves
Ramond. Is that?
You know what?
Come on.
While we're doing it, let's pull up the poll. We got a poll here of how things worked out.
That's right.
People like Mike Clay's DeMarcado more than Fields Joe Flacco. Although 32%, that's not bad.
Not bad. We'll take it.
That's not bad.
I like it. Yeah, I did see some comments. People were like, yes, you get to say it now more that Benson's out. You get to say DeMarcado more.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We're doing lots. Hopefully. I mean, hopefully he plays a nice role this weekend.
Absolutely.
It's not all the Michael Carter show.
We'll find out, unfortunately, if it is. That's going to do it for us today. We love you guys.
Yeah.
Don't forget to love each other. Be kind to yourself. Have fun watching Thursday night football. Go pick up the Rams defense, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
You're in the 0601.